Thank you, and you're not going to want to miss a minute of this show. Welcome to Hannity. This is a Fox News Alert. Things are breaking very fast on three big major stories we're covering tonight. We have new developments in the Uranium One scandal, the phony Russia propaganda dossier story that Hillary Clinton, the DNC, of course, they paid for all of this garbage. And conservatives tonight, a huge win. The IRS now admitting that groups were, in fact, targeted by the Obama administration, Tea Party groups. Now, tonight, these massive scandals can no longer be ignored. Tonight, we will demand answers from all of the people directly involved, and that means it's time for Hillary Clinton and, yes, President Obama to come clean about colluding with the Russians and explain why, in anybody's vast thinking they could ever give Vladimir Putin 20% of America's uranium supply. Also, Hillary Clinton, her top campaign officials, high-ranking DNC executives, all conveniently playing dumb when it comes to the phony, salacious dossier. We'll cover that in tonight's Breaking News Opening Monologue. All right, before we get into all of the new information, and there's a ton of it tonight, I want to remind you that for over a year, Democrats, members of the biased, abusively biased press, all breathlessly talking about Russia, Trump, collusion, hysteria breaking out almost every night. They were acting like the worst scandal in American history. Meanwhile, there were so many prominent Democrats and former Obama officials. In spite of all of this, they were saying there's smoke, but there's no fire. For a year, no evidence, but there's thousands of hours of television coverage. We knew by listening to people it was never true. Watch this.
Have you seen anything that suggests any collusion between the Russians and the Trump campaign?
Well, there's an awful lot of smoke there, let's put it that way. People that might have said they were involved, to what extent they were involved, to what extent the president might have known about these people or whatever. There's nothing there from that standpoint that we have seen directly linking our president to any of that.
The last time we spoke, Senator, I asked you if you had actually seen evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians, and you said to me, and I'm quoting you now, you said, not at this time. Has anything changed since we spoke last?
Well, no, it hasn't.
I know we need to go soon, but just to be clear, there has been no actual evidence yet.
No, it has not been.
Okay. I just want
no, it has not.
At the time I left, I did not see any smoking gun certitude evidence of collusion.
Is there any evidence of collusion that you have seen yet? Is there?
Listen, there is a lot of smoke. We have no smoking gun at this point.
See that? And despite the Destroy Trump media and their desperate attempt with no evidence, they did not stop breathlessly, hysterically reporting these lies, the so-called Trump-Russia collusion. Watch them.
We have a president's campaign under criminal investigation for dealing with a foreign adversary. Historian Douglas Brinkley says there's a smell of treason in the air.
You told the Washington Post last week that, quote, there's a smell of treason in the air when it comes to this investigation.
A lot of people are afraid to use the T word, treason, but in the end, that's what people are investigating.
The Republican Party is now actively shielding this treasonous megalomaniac.
He knows that he is smack in the middle of this investigation having to do with perhaps treasonous activities.
Now, tonight, one of the most important things, sadly, we conclude, is that the media and the Democrats in this country and their attacks were purely political. They never wanted the truth. Now, we even have real evidence that the FBI uncovered a Russian plot that involved, we have real evidence, bribery, extortion, blackmail, money laundering, racketeering. They knew in 2009, that was 1 year before Hillary Clinton and the Obama administration approved this corrupt Uranium One deal. And what we've learned this week is that the FBI, the Department of Justice, all knew in 2009 that this was happening inside our country, and they did nothing to stop it. So the same Democrats, the same media outlets that were screaming bloody murder for a year, lying to you every day for a year about Donald Trump, are giving next to zero coverage to this story. Now, keep in mind, we have an FBI informant in this case who infiltrated this Putin network right here in America. He has evidence. He has emails. He has personal recordings. He has documents. He has insider knowledge of all this, that America's national security was, in fact, compromised at the highest level. Our country was sold out. right in front of our faces. They let it happen. Then, of course, you have the explosive new details about the phony, fake, salacious news dossier. Now, we now know that the Clinton campaign, the DNC, paid over $9 million to help fund these lies, this propaganda hit piece that the Russian government sources gave them. Now, make no mistake, this was nothing short of a collaborative effort with the Russians to manipulate the outcome of the last presidential election, and we have the proof. Also, we have to point something out, since everyone is so worried about Russia collusion. Isn't it interesting that at no point did any Democrats, my overpaid liberal media friends, or Robert Mueller, or members of his team, none of them, they want to get to the truth, none of them asked the one man on this earth that knows the truth, that would know the truth. And I'm talking about the WikiLeaks founder, that's Julian Assange. He is the person, the one individual that posted the information about the DNC emails. No one ever took the time to do what we did and talk to Julian Assange. I've talked to him now on air 5 times. Now, because they knew what his answer would be, and they didn't like it. He was telling us again and again it was never Russia, it was never a state, that it was never a state party. Now, all these scandals and the ensuing cover-ups add to what I am telling you now is the biggest betrayal of you, the American people, that I can think of in my lifetime. The American people have now been regularly lied to. You have been misinformed. You have been propagandized by a political party and abusively biased liberal media that have literally no interest in helping the people in this country or telling you the truth. To them, everything obviously is about politics and about advancing their rigid, radical left-wing ideology. Now, with all that said, here's all the new information we have tonight. On the fake news dossier, Hillary Clinton has been completely silent. So far, Clinton has yet to say anything publicly about financing a document that used current and former Russian government sources to create the most obscene, salacious, completely fabricated accusations about Donald Trump. Now, since Hillary Clinton is refusing to talk about her role in the dossier, well, we decided to reach out to Clinton's spokesperson for comment. Big surprise. They referred us to other people, including the law firm that the Clinton campaign used to fund Fusion GPS. In a statement we did get from them, it said in part, quote, Hillary for America and the DNC complied with all campaign finance laws. Well, that's informative. Now, Hillary's silence on this is beyond telling. Now, sources have told the New York Times that Hillary Clinton only learned about the dossier when BuzzFeed published it back in January. Really? Hillary has such a great track record of telling the truth. Now, the current DNC chairman, he's running as far away as he can and claiming he knew nothing about it. And disgraced former DNC chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she's saying she had no idea what was going on. And according to a report, Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta, told Congress that he wasn't aware of any of these payments. Nobody knows nothing. How is it possible, then, that over $9 million went out the door and people in charge had no idea that that money was being spent? But meanwhile, so many Democrats regurgitated the lies, just like the media. Now, Speaker of the House Paul Ryan announced today that the FBI will cooperate with a House document request about this dossier. This is a huge development, and we're going to be following that closely. Also tonight, Fox News has learned that congressional hearings with the FBI informant, who is the key witness in this Russian bribery scheme, will also be with the chairman and ranking members of the committees only. And Fox News is also told that Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Senator Chuck Grassley, he rightly is pushing for public hearings with the FBI informant. Now, we have to remember that in each of these scandals, laws were broken. Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett has put together a list for us. Take a look at the side of the screen. These are all the laws that were potentially broken by the Clinton campaign and the DNC in the fake news dossier scandal. And there's the Uranium 1 scandal. Oh, Greg Jarrett back at work. You have federal statutes involving crimes like bribery, mail fraud, wire fraud, racketeering. Beyond serious stuff. This is go to jail type of things. Now, we also forgot about the Clinton email server scandal. By the way, they're now up on the side of your screen. 2 House committees finally this week are looking into how the FBI and the Department of Justice during the Obama administration handled these issues, and for good reason. James Comey let Hillary Clinton off the hook despite the overwhelming amount of evidence of wrongdoing. So with all this new information, the big question tonight is who knew what and when? With Uranium One, the FBI had mountains of evidence of Russian bribery. Did President Obama know about this? Was it in President Obama's daily presidential briefings? Apparently, that might have been told to the lawyer of the FBI informant. And what did Hillary Clinton know? And when did she know? Did she know that her husband, Bill Clinton, was being paid double his speaking fees for a speech in Moscow? Did she know that Bill asked for permission while in Moscow to meet with Russian nuclear officials? Did she know that eventually Bill met with Putin during the trip and advocated, this is important, he also advocated that, in fact, the Uranium One deal be done, and also was paid by a bank that had a financial interest in Uranium One. So how could both of them, Obama and Clinton, ever think it's a good idea to give 20% of America's uranium to Vladimir Putin? Now, by the way, that's the foundational material for nuclear weapons. We need to hear from key Obama administration officials. For example, like Eric Holder. What did he know and when did he know it? He was in charge of the DOJ. They were in charge of the FBI. Did he know about the evidence of Putin's network right here inside the United States, all the crimes being committed in 2009 before this Uranium One deal was approved in 2010? Now, remember, Eric Holder, Hillary Clinton, they were part of the committee that signed off on this deal personally. Eric Holder did. Hillary did. And there's Robert Mueller. He was the FBI director back in 2009. How inconceivable is it that he didn't know that Russian operatives were in our country trying to break into the uranium market on behalf of Vladimir? Now, how can he possibly oversee any investigation into any Russian collusion? Next, we got Rod Rosenstein. He was in charge of the investigation into this Russian bribery plot. Does he not have a conflict of interest? Then we have to ask James Comey, what did he know and why didn't he act? And there's also questions about the phony dossier. How is it possible these same people didn't think it was necessary to tell you, the American people, tell Congress that the Clinton camp and the DNC paid for it? You know what? We are working hard day and night. You deserve answers to every one of these questions. But one other important thing that we have to tell you about tonight before we bring in our guests. We now have proof that intelligence wasn't the only powerful government entity that was weaponized by the Obama administration. Now, you may remember I talk about 5 forces against the president. One of them is the deep state. They weaponized the power of intelligence to use against this president. Just a few hours ago, the Department of Justice announced they reached a settlement with multiple Tea Party groups that were targeted specifically by the Obama IRS because of their political ideology. Now, the settlement includes payouts to several Tea Party groups and an official apology from the IRS, which now admits that their actions during the Obama years was, quote, wrong. You think so? Using the IRS, targeting people that you don't like or agree with? Now, remember, much of this IRS weaponization occurred under the oversight of Lois Lerner, while many of these Tea Party groups were in the critical initial stages of forming a resistance to the policies of Obama. That stopped them dead in their tracks. And many of the Tea Party groups were prevented from organizing and instead were spending all their time, all their resources, all their money to combat what was persecution from a politically inspired IRS. Okay, the apology and settlement, great, but a day late and a dollar short, and Obama got a free ride in 2012 as a result. So ultimately, the Democrats got everything they wanted. The Tea Party became distracted, ultimately fractured, and President Obama was reelected for a second term in 2012. We have a lot more. We have so much new information tonight. Joining us now from